the Goggins philosophy. So David Goggins, former Navy SEAL, had a crazy story, crazy upbringing, a lot of family issues, issues with his dad specifically, abused, all kinds of stuff, and extremely obese, deep into the obesity range, and decided to change his life around, decided to start running and doing marathons and things like that, became extremely crazy fit and disciplined, went to the Navy SEALs, joined the Navy SEALs. He's got some crazy record. He's been in like, I don't know, he's like the only person that's been in the cadets and the SEALs and multiple different parts of the Army all at the same time. I don't know the Army that well, or like at least the US variation of the Army. So he's been in multiple different sects of the Army all at once. He's known for doing like crazy stuff, and he kind of became known and like famous through Jesse Itzler. Jesse Itzler is a very successful entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur. He was a rapper, white guy, by the way, skinny white guy. Rapper, super funny guy, you guys should check him out. Then became a producer, like actually got on a label and everything. Became a producer or whatever, joined a record label. From there, started a business, basically leasing out jets, private jets. So going to a company, coming to an agreement. I've heard his story. I've seen him speak live twice. And when I go to live events, I always sit VIP, which is a whole different thing we can talk about, because it's not about the information. It's about the people you're meeting. At VIP, I've brushed shoulders with entrepreneurs I used to look up to when I was a kid, and I'm sitting there next to them. Quick side note, one memory I had that always stayed with me is this one guy I used to watch his YouTube videos and look up to him. He's a younger guy too, very successful. I was at an event and I was sitting VIP, and obviously paid a lot more to be there. And he was right there. And I went up to him. I was like, hey man, like you used to inspire me. Like, I just want to say, I appreciate you. He put his hand on my shoulder and he's like grabbing my shoulder and he's like, hey man, if I've done it, you can do it. Just talking to you, I have no doubt how successful you can be. That moment, that physical contact with this dude I used to watch and look up to was worth the entire event, was worth paying the VIP. I didn't need to hear any of the information from any of the speakers of the actual event. That moment of proximity to somebody powerful and successful, getting proximity, getting close to power, was worth it all, right? So anyways, I've seen Jesse Itzler speak live twice, seen him up close and personal, and he's told the story multiple times. So he started this business of leasing private jets, and he actually ended up selling it to Warren Buffett and his company. And this is at a pretty young age. And he did it in a very crazy way. He convinced, I think it was J-Lo and somebody else, like a couple of celebrities, convinced them to come out to some event, which he wasn't even authorized to do. He lied to the security guys to get into the event. He went and wrote a name tag for himself and put it on the table right next to J-Lo or whoever else it was on the table, literally put a seat for himself on the table. He literally said, the lesson here is if you don't have a seat at the table, make a seat for yourself. That was one of the lessons he gave, right? If you don't have a seat at the table, make a seat for yourself. So this is all from the first talk I saw live of Jesse Itzler speaking. Did that, got these celebrities to fly back with him private. He covered the costs. They flew private on his jet. Then went to Warren Buffett and a couple other investors and said, I have this company. I think it's called NetJets, N-E-T Jets, NetJets. And Berkshire bought it. Sold it to Warren Buffett and made hundreds of millions of dollars. And he's done other businesses and whatnot afterwards as well. He's also the husband to Sarah Blakely. Sarah Blakely is a self-made billionaire. She's the founder of Spanx. So if you guys know Spanx, that product, right? She's a self-made billionaire. Guess what Sarah Blakely used to do for 7 to 8 years? I've seen her speak live too. Actually, I think it was at the same event. She used to do sales for 7 to 8 years. Door-to-door sales, some of the toughest sales there is. Used to sell Xerox machines door-to-door. Some of the greatest entrepreneurs you've ever heard of come from sales. This is why these skills are so fundamental. Then she started Spanx. That whole story is also an interesting one as well. It took a lot of like faith and courage and prior commitments to make that happen, right? Ended up getting Spanx into some major stores, became a billionaire from that. I think she recently just sold Spanx to someone else and officially stepped away. Anyways, long story short, I want to give you guys the background. Jesse Itzler was who made David Goggins famous. Jesse Itzler started to run marathons, and he has this whole philosophy around, he calls it the Big Ass Calendar Club. That's literally the name. If you join Jesse Itzler's courses and mentorships, I've done a couple of them. I've read his book and whatnot. His entire philosophy is literally plan out your entire life. For example, he says, most people think about their parents aging as, I have 10 more years with my parents. He says he does the math on how many times per year he sees his parents. And then he tells himself, okay, so based on the math, I have 7 more visits with my parents left before they pass away. So he does the math. He literally plans out his life to the end. And based on that, he jams it with experiences. And one thing that he does in his Big Ass Calendar Club is he basically makes big commitments for the entire year. So anyways, Jesse Itzler, one of the things he does is marathons and a lot of physical activity, right? He did a crazy one more recently where it was an ongoing marathon until somebody stops, day and night, ongoing. You just run laps and it's last man standing. It's crazy. Like people were running 24/7. I was following his Instagram lives and stories and things like that. They were just like, you come back from a lap, eat a banana, go back for your next lap. And you just go, people drop, whatever, until somebody makes it. The guy who won was actually Jesse Itzler's friend, and they went together. And this guy's a crazy guy, Navy SEAL as well. And I think he went for like, they started daytime, and then he went all day, all night till the next morning, running nonstop, no sleep, no breaks. So Jesse Itzler goes to these events. This is where he meets David Goggins. David Goggins stood out to him because Jesse Itzler took a whole camp with him, took medics, took tents, products, whatever. David Goggins went by himself with a water bottle and some tape for his foot. And he broke his foot in multiple places, fractured it, broke his toes. Looks disgusting. There's pictures of it. Looks disgusting, like nails gone, everything. But David Goggins still kept running. So Jesse Itzler went up to him and was like, hey, man, like, you're going to die. Like, come to my camp. Let me give you some help. Let's get you bandaged up, whatever. And that's where they met. And from there, he realized there's levels to this. Then he decided to ask David Goggins to come live with him for a month. And he shared this whole story live when I saw him speak, and it was very funny. He shared a lot of the jokes. And he said how Sarah Blakely was there too, like I said, at that same event, his wife. So he said, I think she was on stage. I can't remember exactly, but he said how then he asked David Goggins, and David Goggins' thought was, that's crazy. And if anybody's crazy enough to ask me to come live with them, then that's probably somebody worth my time. Like, that's probably somebody, I'm going to want to spend some time with. So he agreed because it was such a crazy request, right? And then Jesse Itzler went to his wife, Sarah Blakely, and said, hey, I just asked this guy, David Goggins, ex-Navy SEAL, big dude. I just asked him to come live with us. And Sarah Blakely's like, okay, I guess. She kind of had no choice in the matter, and they kind of committed to it. And then Jesse Itzler wrote a book, Living with a SEAL. That book is based on David Goggins. That's how David Goggins came on the map and blew up and became a big personality. And you guys can go find that book, Living with a SEAL. Jesse Itzler also wrote a book, Living with the Monks. He went and lived with monks for a period of time and used his experiences there to write a book. But anyways, the one thing that Jesse Itzler took away from living with Goggins, and the one thing that I've learned from David Goggins as well, is his philosophy. And Goggins' philosophy is this: no matter what you're doing in your life, in your business, and how much you think you're doing and how hard you think you're going, you're only at 40%. No matter how great you think you're doing or at what level you think you're playing, you're only at 40% of your potential. And most people are less than that. That's the Goggins mentality that I want you guys to apply. So I want you guys to look at your personal life in this case, and later this month we'll talk about the business, and realize that in your personal life, including myself, doesn't matter if you wake up at 4 a.m. or 4:30 a.m. Doesn't matter what else you're doing. Regardless of how much you're doing or where you're at, you're only operating at 40%. If you start to think with that, it's a crazy mentality. David Goggins also has the record for the most pull-ups in the world. Most like chin-ups. He holds that record, and he does ridiculous numbers of marathons back to back. He has this thing, I think it's called 40 by 40 or something like that. He runs 40 miles in 40 hours, something crazy. He does all these crazy things, right? And people ask him like, how are you not dead? How do you do these things? How do you push to these limits? Like, how do you get the world chin-up record, or how do you do so many things? And he says, because I keep telling myself I'm only at 40%. When I'm tapped out, when those muscles are done, there's zero left in the tank. Or at least you think there's zero left in the tank. When you think you're doing everything in your day to be productive and to beat the competition and to accomplish your goals, you just think to yourself, I'm only at 40%. That creates a 60% margin for you to continue to push. And this is how you find new boundaries. This is how you step into the realms that you've never stepped into, and you grow. And maybe when you tell yourself, I'm only at 40%, you could only do one more rep. Maybe you could only do one more thing that day. But then now you have a new high. You've tapped into a new level for yourself. Now, tomorrow, you tell yourself, I'm only at 40% again. You do one more rep. And gradually, with this mindset of 40%, you continue to expand your limits. You continue to broaden your horizons. And this is how the greats do it.